My name is Rick Talley. This is Owen Locke. We're the co-founders here at Locke Co Distilling.
Rick and I are longtime high school friends, Colorado natives, using aspen wood to make a really unique rye whiskey.
We started distilling about 11 years ago. That's when we got our first still that's behind us there. Started messing around in the garage just as a hobby. And about 6 years ago, more and more friends and family kept asking us for our mason jars of whiskey. So we thought maybe some other people would enjoy it. So we started putting together a business plan and launched in January 2016. But our whiskey didn't hit shelves until September of 2018, so we're waiting for that whiskey to age that almost 3 years.
We get asked all the time, why aspen wood? Why did we start playing around with aspen wood? So about 10 years ago, 11 years ago, we bought the still, started playing with the garage, and we took a mason jar from the garage up to Fairplay, Colorado. The family owns about 30 acres off of Weston Pass, which is about Fairplay into Leadville. So we're up there shutting down the old family cabin, having a good time up there. Ton of aspen trees on the property, so the firewood's always aspen. So we're having a good time drinking around the fire, passing that mason jar around. We threw a chunk of charred aspen like this from a stave into that mason jar, left it on a southern facing windowsill all winter. So hot days, cool nights, really got that wood to work. We came back in the spring, we're like, this tastes really good. Really glad we were drinking by the fire with friends. So then we started playing with the wood differently and started cutting that aspen wood a little differently to get more intense flavor out of that aspen.
So if you think about the way the tree naturally moves nutrients from the soil up the trunk to the leaves, the cells are naturally aligned to let the nutrients flow up and down the trunk. So by cutting the aspen into discs instead of staves like how you'd make a barrel, that whiskey can interact with that wood a lot differently. So originally when we started making our whiskey, our rye whiskey, it was an 85% rye mash build. Once we switched from the aspen stave to the aspen discs, the notes that the aspen imparts in the whiskey were so much more pronounced than we thought. So we had to up that rye percentage of grain to help balance the spiciness that comes from the rye grain with the sweetness that comes from that charred aspen wood.
So right now, we season that aspen wood just about 12 months to get all that flavor. So up in Fairplay, we'll cut it down. It's about 12 months of seasoning to the wind, the rain, the snow up there. And then we take it down to Rick's house on the Weber grill, hand char each piece of aspen wood. Then that floats in the whiskey for 8 months. So it'll be 2 years in these 30-gallon oak barrels, and then 8 months with that hand-cut, hand-charred aspen wood.
It's not like vodka where you can distill it today and sell it tomorrow. We're distilling it today and we're not seeing that whiskey. We're not putting that on shelves for another 3 years between aging it in the oak barrels and then the charred aspen discs.
And about 70% of the flavor in whiskey is going to come from that wood and that aging process, that connectivity, that maturation in that barrel. 70% of the flavor is going to come from that. So that's why aging is such a big, important part. That's the expensive part of whiskey, right? So what we're seeing in the industry is, innovations in aging processes, different woods, different ways to age, and I think that's where the industry is going. So when we looked at it, we wanted to say, okay, what do we like to drink? It's rye whiskey. What's something that's really unique and true to ourselves as Colorado natives? Well, that's aspen wood, something we kind of stumbled into ourselves. And then we look at building that community out there. I think there's a couple other things we'd like people to know is when we're harvesting our aspen wood, it's a pretty sustainable process. As some of you might know, aspen trees are all connected by the root system, so it's one large organism. People ask, are you clear cutting your family property to get all this aspen wood? And that's not the case. We're cutting down live aspen. Essentially what that does is it spreads our aspen grove out, which will help cross-pollinate the other aspen groves down valley. We're also using vegetable-based bar and chain oil, so no petrol gets on the aspen wood. You can see on our bottle we have this plus sign. We used a plus sign instead of an ampersand. We highlight that in all our marketing. You can see it on our barrels. So we want to add people to the experience of kind of how we started, just kind of friends drinking around the fire, right? So we want Locke & Company not in the sense of being a business, but as a guest in our home.